If you were to ask me this time 5 years ago what it would look like to radically love myself today, all of my answers would revolve around eating and drinking. I'm Molly Zemek, a professionally trained chef, a master certified life coach, and the author of the book, Decoding Your Emotional Appetite. And around that time 5 years ago, when I spent a lot of my focus and energy on pursuing the next delicious bite and enjoying wine to my heart's content, I discovered that these habits were really holding me back from feeling my best. What I didn't know at the time is that in a couple of years, I would actually experience a life of so much more pleasure than I could ever imagine by really getting to the root reasons why I was turning to food and alcohol to feel better. And so if you're interested in treating yourself differently and learning how to radically love yourself in new ways so that you can experience even more pleasure than maybe what you imagine right now without giving up the food you love, I have 10 tips for how you can do that. It involves changing your relationship with food and potentially alcohol so that you can also change your relationship with yourself. It involves taking the focus off of food and alcohol and redirecting it in your body. The first tip is listen to your intuition. There is an inner knowing within each and every one of us that's really helping us to understand how we feel, that's really guiding us. Some call it conscience, some spirit, but I want you to pay attention to that wisdom that you have that's letting you know how you feel and what's best for you. If there is something within you indicating that your current habits with eating and drinking aren't helping you feel your best, start to pay attention to that. Start to listen to that truth. You don't need to act on it right away, but begin paying attention because that will be directing you towards your deepest desire, towards the desire that will ultimately satisfy you in a very meaningful way. Tip number 2 is ask yourself, am I actually hungry? If you're thinking about food, first, ask your body, do I actually need food right now? And don't eat if your body's not asking for food. My third tip is pay attention to the first bite of whatever you're choosing to eat. That's where the majority of the pleasure is to be found in food, is really in that first bite. So bring all of your senses to the table and notice the taste, the texture, the sound, the smell, the temperature, and really engage in the process of eating so that you can maximize the experience of eating and really appreciate the full flavor of what you're having. And then my next tip, tip number 4, is really start listening to your body as you're eating because your body will tell you when you've had enough. And that's usually before you're full. But you need to listen because that language of your body is very subtle. My 5th tip is notice how certain foods make you feel. Each of us individually respond differently to different foods. And I promise you, when you start to listen to the language of your body, you'll notice certain foods make you feel good. They give you energy. They're nourishing. They're calming. Whereas other foods might feel disruptive to your digestion. They might create more cravings. They might actually exacerbate hunger. And then my 5th tip my 6th tip is decide ahead of time based on those foods that make you feel good to actually prioritize eating more foods that help your body feel its best. So decide ahead of time to plan to eat foods that really help you feel your best. My 7th tip is give yourself permission to indulge. Don't take delicious food all off the table. Oftentimes, when we're trying to feel better, we think we need to eliminate our favorite foods. And that's absolutely not true because when you eliminate foods or when you label them bad, you end up wanting them even more. And you might even rebel against yourself and overeat. So give yourself permission to indulge in the foods that you love. Which brings me to point number 8, which is be intentional about indulging in the food that you love. Don't spontaneously eat it, but make decisions ahead of time to include it as part of your daily food plan. Be very thoughtful about how much you will eat so that you're not sacrificing feeling good. Be very intentional about paying attention when you eat it, which brings me to point number 9, and that is stay conscious during the eating process. So when you're enjoying delicious foods, don't do it in a distracted way because you'll miss out. You'll miss out on the pleasure that awaits you in that delicious bite. Instead, put your entire focus on eating when you're indulging in something delicious, because that way you will be able to feel satisfied with less. You'll have a heightened, pleasurable experience with less food. And then my final point for you, point number 10, is stay committed to feeling good. For those of us food lovers, it's so easy to just put all of our focus on food, to fantasize about good food, to imagine delicious things to eat, but then really neglect our bodies and dismiss that inner language of our bodies that is telling us exactly what our bodies need to feel their best. So I urge you to stay committed to feeling good, stay committed to listening to your body. Your body has everything you need to know about feeling good. You just need to start listening. And that happens by de-emphasizing the food and refocusing on yourself. I hope this is helpful for you.